In the sporting world, the least of a player is not alien to the burden of performing on the field. Some say strong, others succumb to a lure of quick fixes. Mr. Daniel Natacosta is the head of grassroots development Forza Goa Foundation. I don't think there's anybody in this audience who's unaware of Forza Goa Foundation, a non-profit organization that works towards fostering community-focused, holistic grassroots programs to develop football in India. Mrs. Da Costa is an All India Football Federation certified coach and a Premier League certified coach educator, along with sports development and award-winning social enterprise that uses sport as a tool for the holistic development of children and youth. And Sangat, Mr. Natalan Da Costa has helped develop the curriculum and execute the MeWe project in Goa. He is also assisting the Premier League and the British Council to pilot a sports-based project at the primary school level. Nathaniel will be assisted by his colleagues in delivering the session. Mrs. Sara Shabir Suhas Rawalla is a trained clinical psychologist who served as a research associate and an adjunct faculty prior to joining Sangat as a project coordinator on various adolescent mental health projects. Welcome, Ms. Sara. Mrs. Brinda Singh Mr. Brinda Singh Raikwar is a counseling psychologist whose interest and prior work experiences are focused towards group psychosocial therapeutic work with children. Welcome, Ms. Brinda. Now, Mr. Da Costa and his colleagues will now speak on us on sports-based substance use prevention program.
We might take part of your lunch time because we'll extend till 1:15. Sorry about that in advance. So Miriam has covered a series of projects under Sangat, and now we are going to take you through a very exciting and fun project that we have. When I say exciting and fun, it's because we are talking about young people and we are talking about sports. So that itself makes it very exciting and fun. So the project is called MeWe Sports. It is a project for preventing substance use among young people. So over the next about 10 to 15 minutes, I'll take you through a brief background of the project. I'll also take you through the formative research phase, the 2 years long research that we did before we started our implementation, or where are we currently. So I'll take you through all of that. And then Brinda, my colleague, she will take you where are we currently and what are we doing with the project and what's happening right now. So I'm going to be taking the boring part. She's going to be explaining a very interesting part, but I hope you pay a little bit more attention to mine as well. So why are we focusing on adolescents and why are we talking about substance use is because we are already aware that early initiation of substance use can lead to a lot of problems when adolescents enter adulthood. These problems can range from increased risk for academic failure, mental and physical health issues, risky sexual behavior, sexually transmitted disease, and also the development of substance use. So research is already, there's already research evidence pointing to these. So since we know that there exists a problem, there are also current, what is the government's response to this problem is, India's government has a lot of program, and one of their program, Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram, has integrated part of substance use for adolescents. However, the problem with this program is it has very limited resources and very limited access, and also it's very exclusively restricted to just education and awareness. So even though these programs are in place, the problem with this is there are also school-based interventions in place. But these school-based interventions are promising, and the results are also persistent. But the evidence base is very weak for low and middle income countries, India being one of them. And so these failed responses is pointing us towards developing a contextually relevant evidence-based intervention for prevention of substance use among adolescents. Now, we are also, one part of our project is sport. The major part of our project is sports. So various programs which I spoke about that are in place, evidence-based programs, they have also inculcated sports and play as a strategy to improve adolescents' well-being. because sports is a very unique and it provides an invaluable setting in terms of developing values like respecting each other, obeying rules, playing with a team. And also, along with that, they also help us develop skills such as coping with wins, coping with losses, and also physical abilities, which is for sure sports. However, there is also a substantial gap in this area also, that the literature is very weak for prevention component in sports, which directly points out to that is there a measurable behavioral change for substance use among adolescents. So now we know what the problem is. We know that there are different kinds of solutions in place. What are we doing about is we have designed a contextually relevant. When I say contextually relevant is because we are doing it in Goa and we have tested it and we are testing it in Goa, and we have taken all the data collection we have done is in Goa. So it's contextually relevant, also evidence-based intervention, but it can be tested both locally and nationally, which we will do in our further trials. We have co-produced this intervention. I'll come back to you. What do we mean when we say we have co-produced this intervention for substance use with young people, surrounding community, and also experts. So we call it MAVI Sports, which is mental well-being through sports. MAVI Sports. And we are also going to evaluate it further, like I said, through our pilot trial. So what is MAVI Sports? It's a program which we have developed to prevent substance use among adolescents using sports as a platform. And we are doing a pilot study currently to evaluate its acceptability and feasibility in a school setting in Goa. So this was a brief background of why we have chosen this topic and why we have chosen this platform to solve this problem. I'll take you from the beginning, that from 2 years back, 2.5 years back, when we started this project, I was not even here in Goa, but we have started this project. We have done a lot of work before we started actually implementing the project. So the work included, so we wanted to develop an intervention which was sports-based, which was for young people. So it was important for us to include all the various stakeholders that are going to be part of the project. By stakeholders, I mean, if we are talking about young people, we also took young people with us. We are talking about sports, so we also consulted sports experts. We also consulted health experts, and we also did workshops or qualitative interviews with local group experts to get a contextually relevant evidence base. So we did qualitative interviews, we did group workshops, we did intervention development group workshop, and we also did a national level cross-sectional survey. So we went to young people, we did qualitative interviews with them. We went to young people and we asked them that what is their pattern of substance use. So we asked them questions like, what are the commonly used substances what substance do you use commonly? So on an average, we found that most young people use alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis. We also asked them what is the reason for their first time use. So the answers we got was, the highest rated was peer group pressure, curiosity to just try the substance, restrictions that we have around the use of substances, and the use in family. So if there's already use in family, that also results in one of the reasons for them trying out substances. We also asked them reasons for continued use, that what are the reasons that you're still using it. So they told because of traumas, any kind of trauma, relationship breakup, just relieving distress and anxiety, and also because of the pleasant experience that you have after you use substances. So these are the responses that we got from young people. We did not just ask them their pattern of substance use, we also asked them what we can do to prevent it. So they also gave us some strategies like, teach us boundary setting, resilience skills, or teach us self-esteem, how to build self-esteem, how to build coping skills, teach us problem solving. So they gave us all these prevention strategies as well, apart from the pattern of substance use that they have. So now we know what the problem is, where it's coming from, and what is currently happening. We thought obviously we know the problems, how we can prevent it. But we are not expert at this. We are not sports experts. We are not health experts. So we called in experts. First, we asked family members, because family members are also very closely involved with young people, and they affect their pattern of substance use, which we have already seen. So we did workshops, qualitative interviews with young people's family members, young people ranging from 12 to 20 years. So we called in family members, we asked them about different prevention strategies that they can tell us that we can use with young people, or which we can make part of our intervention. which included some of them were teaching them coping skills. They told us to intervene earlier in the age and not later. They also told us, use punishment as a mechanism to prevent substance use. They told us to build awareness, teach them more about substance use, or give them more knowledge about what substances are there. They also told us to keep parents involved in the loop, that don't just make the program very child focused, but keep the parents also in the loop, and parents should also be involved throughout the program. And they also told us to teach them various skills to deal with distress, because they found that children are distressed, and because of that they use substances. Then we also had workshops with health experts. We asked them that what are the key things that we should consider while we are developing our intervention. So they told us strategies like make it very fun. You also can intervene early. They told us about the messaging also, that normally the messaging around substance use is don't use it, it's bad. So they told us to keep the messaging very neutral, give them education, and then let them make a choice. So they also told us about that consider young people as equal, and you target multiple behavior, not just substance use. We also did workshops with sports experts. So when we did workshops with sports experts, because two of our collaborators, one is Forza Goa, one is Pro Sports Development, one is Sports for Development Organization, one is Football Organization. So we called experts in from different other organizations also across India, and we asked them what are the things, what makes an effective program, and according to you, what are the challenges that we can face while we are making this program. So they gave us a lot of input into how we can make it an effective program. They told us to make it universal, and coaches should be sensitized to mental health, because these are sports coaches. They don't necessarily know anything about mental health. So first to sensitize them before training them. Then also aim for overall development, because we also had a lot of organization from Sports for Development Organization, which does not just focus on physical abilities, but they also teach a lot of different skills and abilities through sports. And they also told us to make it process oriented, not just output oriented. We also interviewed local expert group, like I said, that we did 3 workshops with local experts and 2 specifically with young people in Goa. So we called them and we asked for their input, that what are the priorities area that we can target and how we can engage young people in school. So they told us to change the mindset of sports teacher and coaches first around substance use, because their mindset is especially, like even for me, for example, some years back, if I look back at my own self, I'd be like, substances are bad, you should not use it. So first of all, change their mindset. Then also make sports fun and accessible. Don't make it very serious, because when we talk about mental health, we are just giving them lectures. So make it more fun and accessible, and also create a fair environment when you're delivering the intervention. So these are the major things that local expert group also told, and that's what we got out of them. The last thing that we did was we also did an online survey. So we circulated the survey, we made an online survey, we circulated, and they told us inputs on how we can make the survey better and how we can prevent substance use also. So they told us when you are delivering the intervention or when you're making the toolkit, make it very jargon-free language. Don't make it very technical, because sports coaches might not have a mental health background. The kids might not understand. So if you're making it, keep the target audience in mind and make it very simple and accessible to everybody. Provide links and resources frequently during the survey, add questions on video games and online gamings. They also told us to ask young people reasons for substance use, which we already did, but they also told us to do that. And give frequent trigger warnings in case we are taking any subject that is very sensitive. So we did all of this in the span of 2 years. And then from September, we started actually implementing our program. So now Brinda will take you through the whole implementation process. How did we start and where are we right now? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for such a detailed description and walking everybody through all the 2 years of work that we have put in. So as you've gathered from what Sarah was talking about, is that we did a lot of research work and we gathered a lot of data in terms of the experiences of people, their personal experiences, their opinions. So from all that we have gathered, we went on to create something as we call as theory of change, right? And from that, after we have systematically put together all this data, we went on to create what we call as an intervention toolkit. Okay, so what is an intervention toolkit? The intervention toolkit is essentially a manual that is our guiding manual, which has all the resources, the training material, the sessions that we have developed as a part after all the work that we have put together. So we have created an intervention toolkit out of it, right? So this toolkit is, why do we create such an intervention toolkit is because our ultimate aim is to scale up this intervention and also to see that it can be, while it can be generalized, it can also be adapted in various different settings, can be contextualized also to those settings. So essentially, this is what the intervention toolkit is, and I'm going to be talking very briefly about and touch some points about how this intervention toolkit has been and what it consists of. Okay, so essentially we have picked up components. So what are these components? These are competencies that we want to teach children, right? And we have divided them and classified into two major categories. One is the substance use specific components and the other is non-substance use specific components. So what are these? Substance use specific components are basically competencies which have a direct linkage towards substance use and misuse. What could they be? It would be about educating children about substance use. We do not want to take a moralistic stance. We're not going there to children and saying that don't do substances or doing substances is bad. We are trying to give them very evidence-based, research-driven information that is relevant for them so that they can make informed choices. That's the major gap that we see in the kind of psychoeducative, educative related material that exists for substance use, is that it's extremely moralistic, right? Say no to substances. The kind of jargons that are used actually doesn't cater to the problem at stake, because children do use substances. What we need to teach them is how to do it safely, even if they do choose to do that, right? So major components are that. So we are educating them about substance use here. We are also teaching them certain very essential life skills, like how to say no, how do you set boundaries, refusal skills. We have picked up situations and experiences that they carry in their daily lives with respect to usage of substances and context and situations that create scenarios where they might be pushed into substances, and gathered those, and we have created material around that. The non-substance use components are basically like proxy competencies. These are not directly linked to substance use, but they are social, emotional competencies which are very, very essential part of the child's holistic mental and psychosocial development. What are these? I'll give you a bit of examples over here. So we are teaching them we're talking about self-esteem, we're talking about resilience, we're talking about healthy coping mechanisms, and also linking it directly to the situations where they might be exposed to substances, and they might, so that they can make alternate choices, and they have alternate choices to make, not just to say that don't smoke cigarettes, but if I don't smoke cigarettes and if I'm stressed, what do I do? So that's the gap that we're trying to cover. So these are some of the competencies that we are covering in the non-substance use specific components, right? In the parent and teacher engagement, as Sarah had really rightly pointed out, that we need to involve all the stakeholders who make the social ecosystem of the child. So we're not saying that problem exists with the children themselves. It's the whole ecosystem that informs and that influences their behaviors and their mindsets, right? So we wish to involve the parents and teachers as well. So while that, I'm going to talk more about it, but we do have a component which is directed towards parent and teacher engagement, where we are taking these kind of seminars and workshops with these parents and teachers on basic things like how can they act as gatekeepers, how do they respond when they get to know that their child is using substances, or how can the teachers help their children in the classroom when they do realize that probably someone is using substances. So what role can they play? How can they become those gatekeepers in this whole process of prevention of misuse? Okay. Now this is the interesting part. So what we've done is essentially we wanted to make it very child friendly. We wanted to simplify things. Some things can be very, very complicated about these competencies, and we must have heard that we talk a lot about self-esteem, emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, a lot of these components which are basically social emotional learning components. But how do we teach them? So that is where we have brought in the innovation, where what we are trying to do is we have divided it into 3 frameworks. So what are these frameworks? So each of our component has been converted into sessions where we are targeting them through 3 mediums. which is We Learn. So what is this? These are basically knowledge-based sessions. Things like when you're teaching them about, say, understanding your emotions, right? There are a lot of theory involved in it that, children don't know about. So these are basically learning and knowledge-based sessions that are part of the component. But how do we now make sure that while we are teaching them, how do we make it experiential? That's where the innovation of sports comes in. So we have curated games which are sports agnostic games. They're not connected to a particular kind of sport or a professional sport. These are sports agnostic games which uses certain material of sports, like say footballs that you have here. So what we're trying to do is we're not teaching you football. What we're trying to do is that by using tools which are like sports tools like football, we are teaching you these skill sets while you're playing that game on the field. So that doesn't make it mundane, that makes it extremely fun. And that is followed up by, when we collated together the We Learn and the We Act, it is followed up by a We Reflect session where the facilitator and the children come together for conducting like a group reflective session on what the learnings are, what their experiences were. And so we bring it all together into something like this, and this is what a session could look like. All right? Okay. I forgot to mention that the We Act, which is basically the sports-based activities, have been designed by with one of our collaborators who are the Pro Sports Development Organization, Sports for Development organization called Pro Sports Development based out of Delhi. Okay. Right, so we created the toolkit. We have created this toolkit, and what we went on to. So this is some of the pictures that are captured from the training that we held for these coaches. So these are our facilitators. Who are these facilitators? These are sports coaches who are from FC Goa Foundation, and these are grassroots level sports coaches who we are training in delivering this intervention. So how did we go about the training? We started off in December. It was a 10-day training program where we had in-class sessions as well, where we trained, first of all, we have to train them not how to deliver. First, we need to train them what the intervention is. Each and every component was covered. We trained them and we explained every component in bit by bit so that they also experientially experience what these competencies are and how do we cultivate them. Then we went on to also convert that and build it and match it to a level where we can see how these life skills can be converted and can be matched to the sports-based activity. So we had trainings on field as well. So then we went on to train on field. And then after the training was over, we have gone forward and now we're conducting a pilot, which I'll talk about further. Okay, so as Sarah mentioned, that this is a universal intervention. We have chosen 7th grade students, they are secondary school students, and it's an uncontrolled treatment cohort. Everybody is receiving the intervention. There is no control arm at the moment. We have collected data on 3 phases. On the baseline, while we were training the coaches, our researchers were involved in understanding their experiences of receiving the training so that we can also make sure that when we are going further with it, we can learn from that as well and incorporate that when we are trying to define our intervention. Then, we did and I'll talk more about that later. And at the present, for our pilot study, we have 2 coaches and 1 youth champion. So I'll talk about their roles further going on. So who are our main intervention facilitators? They are, like I said, they are football coaches and youth champions. These football coaches have been hired from FC Goa, and the youth champions are also people who are interested in sports and are young people, 18, 19-year-old people who can act as a bridge between the sports coach and the child and also be someone who is more relatable as a figure, who can be that safe space of expression for the children. So we're also engaging young people, not just in part of delivering not in the part of developing it, but also cultivating their skill sets so that they can also be facilitators of this intervention. We're essentially delivering the MIWI Sports Toolkit. And where are we doing this? We have partnered with St. Anthony School in Dulair, and we're doing it with 7th grade students over there. And how we're doing it is, so we have curated the sessions like I spoke about. learn, we act, and we reflect. And we are continuously, over the week we go and we spend time, and we've taken their PE periods. So we have permission from school, and we're doing this in their PE period. So we're trying to see if this can be a regular part of their ongoing school curriculum. So we don't have to take their time away from school. This can be inculcated well within their school curriculum. So we are delivering sessions on field and in classroom as well, and it's a mixture of both at the moment. Any education-based lessons we are taking in classroom, and rest of all of them are happening on the field. We're constantly also monitoring, evaluating, and providing supervision to our coaches. So this is something which is very new for them as well, right? We are trying to see if such an intervention can be delivered by non-specialist people who are not trained in mental health, who are not trained in these kind of, to deliver such things. So they are being provided with constant supervision at every step of the way on a weekly basis. And at the same time, there are observers and evaluators who are on the field as well, who are taking who are observing it, who are then which is getting action during our supervision. And we're also, side by side, also the research process is also going on, where we are taking very detailed ethnographic field notes, because these are things that we cannot record. We cannot have how do we record, how do we monitor, and how do we evaluate it? So we do have ethnographic note takers also on the field who are taking detailed notes of what are the dynamics that are going on, because this is happening in a group, in a large scale group. So this is what we are doing in order to document our pilot study. Right, I spoke about this. We are working with around 80 students at the moment. And they're a mix of Goan people and from other communities, and mostly from lower income resource settings. And their parents are laborers. They work in the tourism industry over here in Goa. So this is how the sample looks like at the moment. I did cover this, that at the training phase, we conducted interviews with the coaches to capture their experiences of receiving this training and how can we improve it. And whatever feedback they were giving to us were being actioned while we were training them. So this happened at the training phase. Now we do have the intervention delivery phase in the midlines. We also at the midline we're trying to understand from the kids of their experiences of receiving this intervention, and also from the coaches of delivering it. So we are conducting in-depth qualitative interviews with the student participants and the coaches and the youth champion. And now we plan on, once we complete our intervention delivery, we plan on conducting a post-intervention phase. We're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to collect data from them in forms of interviews and assessments that we did in the beginning, and trying to see that what their experience has been, both of receiving the intervention and also of delivering. So, where are we? So we plan on, so since this is a pilot and we're doing this for the first time, and so we are very, very focused on understanding where have we lacked, what can we improve. We're trying to take at every possible step the feedback from our coaches, from the participants, and at the same time all our learnings that we are gathering from our observations and evaluations from the ground. And we're going to collate this together to make a more improved and a refined version of MeWe Sports, which we hope to take further and scale it up into different, and that is going to, and once we have gathered this, we will incorporate that as a part of our intervention manual, and also see how we can further scale it up and apply for further funding in order to scale it up and take it to different places and in different contexts as well. So that's our plan at the moment. Yes. We also have, like Sarah spoke about, that we do have a youth advisory board who have been a very integral part of this whole process. So we're also trying to see if our outputs that we create from now and whatever we've gathered for now can actually have the potential for advocacy efforts that we can take across India and in different parts of the country as well. And we also hope to see that through the research cycle, we can actually create outputs which can inform the practice and policy specifically for the country's prevention science agenda in the area of substance use and misuse. Thank you. Any questions? yeah, I mean, about this, now I will give it to Nathan, but in case you have any questions regarding this, please feel to ask. So right now we are testing the fidelity and the acceptability of it. So we are trying to see, are children really enjoying it? Are they really, if there's any, so I spoke about the fact that we, sorry, I missed speaking about that fact. We do have delivery aids that we have given to the coaches as well. So wherein we're trying to see how much are the kids able to retain it as well. How much of the content that we are delivering, are they remembering it? We're not trying to see any large scale difference at the moment. We're not trying to see that, oh, the kids are going to stop you, because they are not, even 7th graders are not using substances at the moment, right? So we are trying to delay the initiation. We're not saying that we can stop initiation. We are going to try and see if the initiation can be delayed. So that is the larger goal that we're looking at. But at the moment, we're trying to see, are the children even enjoying this intervention? Are they having fun when they're doing it? Are they responsive on the field? Are they answering? Are they reflecting? So this is what we are trying to gather at the moment. Yeah.
Anger, that's a perfect example. So for example, I'll pass the ball to you. Hold. Yeah. Just say stand up and give one example of a feeling or emotion that you know. Like you said, anger. And you can pass it on to someone else. Just give them a heads up so they're ready to catch it. Sadness. Just look around, give someone a heads up. Don't throw it too far away, just give it someone close by.
Excuse me.
Just stand up and say any emotion or feeling that you know of, sir. Happiness, great. Joy. Sorry? Fun. Nobody wants to catch the ball that side?
Just throw.
Surprise. Joy was already said. We can give something else. Another example. Excitement. Everyone's giving really positive emotions. Yeah, that's great. Love. Fantastic. Okay, let this be the last one. Sorry? Enthusiasm. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of positive emotions. So, with a very basic example like this, I mean, check. So we start with simple. Can everyone hear me? Yes. They want to record it. Check. Yeah. So with very basic examples like this, very simple exercises, this is a simple exercise to get children to think of emotions, to think of what they feel, and then we follow it up with another activity which I will take you all outside. So if you can quickly come outside. Again, this is not an exact activity that we do for the MEWE project. It's going to be simplified for this group.
Okay, so just, teaching them basic values that, teamwork, you have to play together with each other. We had initially a lot of challenges in mixing genders together because girls refuse to play with boys refuse to play with girls. So first day we were like taken aback, what is happening? And then slowly we realized that now then we have system in place that in class we'll mix all of them and then we'll get them to the ground. So they know this is their team. The girls will have to play with boys if they have to win it against the other team. So just teamwork, following the rules, obeying the coaches, coming on time, going back on time. So all of these things are in place. So not just psychosocial skills, but also general values that we are teaching them. So now they are very conditioned to it, that this is how it's going to go.
There are a number of questions here. So this is not mine, she was asking me. So I think I'd like to put it forward because it needs to be answered. So she said, are we controlling their emotions?
You're telling them what to behave, what to do.
But I think that's important.
Expression is what you first did in the first exercise, expressing your emotions, right? And then you're telling them, please behave properly. And my emotion is to get excited, like Surubi said. She wants, what a child is basically excited. A child is very, not like how we are now sitting in one place, and when you're playing and controlled emotions and you're telling them, see, you're going down, you're giving instructions, and as a special educator we do give instructions. We say you're going down, behave yourself, make a line, and as a sign language I would say line is this, make a line, go down, and then you're controlling the emotions of excitement. You know, the first initial is and Surabhi said after you finish your class you're expected to go back to the regular setup. So how do you control the excitement, you know, at the end of the play? And that was my study yesterday, actually, a pilot study on Ring, and I really had a problem. After they finished playing, they would come as boisterous. Confident was one thing, they would come as confident, but they would come as boisterous also. So how would you, that was her question, actually was not answered, which is yet to answer, and I would retaliate her. I mean, I would.
I'll just use, I get what you're saying, and I'll just use an example or metaphor of like a board game. All right, there are instructions in a board game. When you're playing a board game, there are instructions, but at the same time, you get to interact. So we are not controlling the play.
Okay.
We are not controlling the play situation. The coaches are not. They are just acting as facilitators. So if we are, say, for example, the game that, you know, Nathan demonstrated, there are certain variations that we are adding to it. They were not adding rules to behavior. They can jump around, they play. There are games that we, you know, that we have. So I'll give you an example of a game where sort of we are trying to teach them. We're actually trying to make them experience when they what it feels like to be angry. So they have bibs, okay, and everybody are in a circle. So they have bibs in their pocket, and you have to snatch it from other people. So actually, they are enjoying it. They're experiencing that sort of, okay, someone has crossed my boundary and taken away my bib. How am I going to feel? So we are not controlling that situation. We are adding these elements that are going to induce those situations. Those are going to induce those emotions, and we let them be. So we don't interfere in that area. It's after the game is over is when we get them together to reflect. So that's the time. So after the game is over, we also cool them down. So there's a cool down activity also. They'll cool down after that, and then we're going to sit down, and then we're just going to have a discussion. Okay, you know, the coaches pick up those things. So okay, when that friend of yours is doing that, when they snatch it from you, how did you feel? Or what were you feeling? And they're also primed in the beginning. So we also tell them, okay, such a situation might arise, or this is what so we're also taking them with that sort of a mindset that they might experience these emotions while they are playing. So they are being told that, okay, you know, you'll notice how you're feeling while you're playing. So these kind of prompts enables them to go down that reflective route and just not have unorganized play. So that sort of, these inputs are helping us to actually induce these feelings and also work with these feelings, help them make sense of these feelings and not just let it go, because those are going to happen in any kind of sport. Right? When I'm playing a professional sport, I'm experiencing all of this while I'm a professional badminton player. So when I'm playing badminton, I'm experiencing all of this. But as a part of my professional sport, nobody really asked me, okay, when that did not happen, how did you feel? So that is what we are capturing on and using that as material to further teach them these kind of things.
Basically, I would sum up whatever you said is like have a structure, like start with the rules, then end up with the coming down exercise. That is what is answered. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did answer all three of our questions.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is, I'm a bit curious about this. So when you did that game with us, say an emotion, say imagine in a classroom, in a class where you take them out on the floor, on the ground, and you're doing this game with them, and one child says, I am feeling sad, okay? And then you pass the ball and you go around. So what happens after that? Like, how are you, what happens to kind of close that session? Because a child is telling you, I am feeling this way, okay? So how do we kind of address that in that session? I'm a bit curious to know about that.
Okay. So, you want to take that? Should I take that? Okay. So, say for instance, this sort of a game that we are playing, okay, when we are having the V-Reflex session, it's a peer-based learning also, right? So we are trying to teach them how to not just reflect on your own feelings. We're not going to go into the depth of things. We're not trying to say that, okay, what made you feel that way. We're going to touch very basic things, but at the same time, just how you said, okay, I was feeling sad, right? How did you know you were feeling sad? Did you notice something in your body? So we are trying to, what are we teaching them? We're trying to teach that emotions are emanating from your body. So we are only touching the parts and we're digging in as much as we can also hold in that space, right? We're not doing therapeutic work. We are doing skill building. We are teaching them, okay, if you need to learn something about emotions, you need to learn that it emanates in your behavior. So say for instance, if they're playing a team sport, the coach is going to ask them, okay, how are your peers feeling, right? So they'll say, I noticed that you know, that child was feeling angry. How did you know that he was feeling angry? That could be a follow-up reflection question. That makes them think, okay, how do I know that my friend was feeling angry? So what are they going to say? That, okay, I'm noticing the behavior of the kids around me. How do I know I am feeling angry? So then that makes them think, okay, how do I know? That's when we bring in these kind of components to teach them. So we are not trying to go into a kind of reflection which just touches the surface, but at the same time also inculcate these things that are going to help and enable them, and then we connect it to their everyday life. Yeah.
No, it's a personal reflection. I feel that when you open up something, we also have the responsibility to bring it to.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what if I was a child in 7th grade and I'm going through a lot of hormonal changes at that point, and I'm conveying to you that I feel this way, and I could be a sensitive child. I'm not saying every child is different for different people. Then if I'm able to, given that space to say I'm feeling sad, because you know, in the systems that we grow up in our schools, saying a negative thing is not very welcomed. You are reinforced to say all happy emotions.
Yeah.
So I don't want a child going home feeling that I was given this space, but there was a longing for so much more. Like, I'm just mindful of that.
Definitely.
It's nothing. It's just
no. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And which is why in the beginning when we were training the coaches, which is why we are also on field and we're trying to notice if there are children, you know, who are coming up since they've started opening up with us. So we are also very mindful of the fact that we do notice that there are children who might be struggling, or there are struggles which we cannot cater to in this system that we have created and in this structure. So we do have mechanisms in place which till now we have not encountered such a situation, but we are, and while we were training the coaches, they were also trained in basic mental health first aid. So we did provide them with that training as well, in order to not just do anything but just recognize. How do you recognize these things of somebody's feeling sad today because probably they didn't score well, or is it a persistent thing that a child is coming up with? So we have also trained them to make sure that they are mindful and they're able to recognize these signs, and then of course they don't have to do, we just have created a SOP around it, and you need to just report it to us, and then we will take it forward from there. So that's how we are catering at the moment, but I get your point that these kind of things can come up. So we have created these systems in place so that if the coaches are not enabled, they are not trained to handle this, then that's where we pitch in.